The Inuit Tale of the Kalapilyuit, a chilling encounter with the sea's embrace. In the vast, icy expanses of the Arctic, where the winds carried whispers of ancient tales and the sea embraced the land in a frozen dance, the Inuit people passed down a chilling legend through generations, the Kalapilyuit. This mythical creature, concealed beneath the unforgiving waves, was more than a mere folktale. It was a haunting narrative that echoed through the hearts of Inuit children, a cautionary saga of the perilous depths that lay hidden beneath the icy seas. In the heart of a secluded Inuit village, surrounded by towering ice-capped mountains and endless stretches of frozen tundra, lived a young girl named Noliajuk. Her parents, like all caring guardians in the village, shared the age-old warnings about the Kalapilyuit, urging her to steer clear of the perilous edges of the sea ice. As Noliajak's laughter resonated through the crisp Arctic air, mingling with the sun's ethereal glow, a sudden hush descended. The village, nestled in an icy embrace, stood silent as if the very landscape held its breath. The sea ice beneath Noliajak's feet shuddered, and an otherworldly coldness crept through the air. With a haunting whisper, the Kalapilyuit emerged from the frigid waters, its spectral form materializing from the depths below. Its elongated fingers, like tendrils of ice, reached upward, and its eyes gleamed with an ethereal light. The sea ice groaned beneath its touch as the creature extended its ghostly arms toward Noliajuk. Paralyzed by a mixture of fear and fascination, Noliajuk found herself ensnared by the Kalapilyuit's ghostly grip. Its eyes, like frozen pools of darkness, locked onto hers with a malevolence that sent shivers through her very soul. The creature's eerie wails reverberated across the icy expanse as it dragged her into the freezing abyss below. The village, alerted by Noliajak's desperate cries, rushed to the scene. But by the time they arrived, the Kalapilyuit had vanished, leaving only ripples on the icy surface and the haunting memory of the sea's mysterious embrace. Noliajuk was gone, swallowed by the enigmatic depths. The village mourned the loss of the spirited girl, and whispers of the Kalapilyuit's presence haunted their nights. From that day forth, the legend of the creature beneath the frozen waves grew, a tale of caution and respect for the mysteries of the Arctic Sea. The elders, gathered around the warmth of the communal fire, would share the story, ensuring that the memory of Noliajuk and the chilling encounter with the Kalapilyuit would echo through the generations. As the Arctic winds continued to carry tales across the frozen landscape, the Inuit children listened with wide-eyed fascination, understanding that the sea held secrets best approached with both awe and trepidation. The legend of the Kalapilyuit endured, etched into the very fabric of Inuit folklore, a chilling reminder of the unpredictable depths that lay beneath the icy waters and the spectral creature that dwelled within. Max and Moritz, a dark comedy of mischief and retribution. In a quaint German village, nestled amidst rolling hills and dense forests, there lived two mischievous boys named Max and Moritz. Their days were filled with devilish pranks that left the villagers both amused and exasperated. Little did the villagers know that these seemingly harmless miscreants would unleash a series of dark and macabre events that would forever stain the pages of local folklore. Max and Moritz, with their unruly hair and impish grins, embarked on a spree of mischief that escalated with each passing day. They stole hens, played tricks on the elderly, and caused chaos in the quiet village. The townsfolk, frustrated and angered by their antics, began to voice their concerns, sensing that something more sinister lurked behind the boys' innocent facade. One day, the boys set their sights on the town's unsuspecting baker, a rotund man known for his delicious treats. Max and Moritz, their minds concocting mischief, snuck into the bakery and tampered with the dough, turning what should have been delectable delights into inedible miseries. As the unsuspecting villagers bit into the tainted pastries, their expressions twisted in horror. The dough, infused with malice, caused uproarious stomachaches, leaving the townsfolk writhing in pain. The once amused villagers now demanded justice for the malicious deeds of Max and Moritz. But the mischievous duo was undeterred. They continued their spree of malevolence, taunting the villagers and escalating their pranks to ever more dangerous heights. The townspeople, driven to the brink of despair, sought the help of the village miller, a man known for his cunning. The miller devised a plan to put an end to Max and Moritz's reign of terror. He crafted a trap, luring the boys into a field of grain. Unbeknownst to them, the miller had enlisted the help of a farmer and his geese, creating a macabre spectacle that would serve as a grim lesson. As Max and Moritz frolicked in the field, the geese, incensed by their disruptive presence, chased the boys with relentless determination. Max and Moritz, in a futile attempt to escape, sought refuge in a sack of grain. Little did they know that their cunning plan would lead to their demise. The geese, spurred on by the villagers' cries for justice, pecked and clawed at the sack until it burst open. The mischievous boys, now exposed and defenseless, met a gruesome end at the merciless beaks of the enraged geese. The once victimized villagers, witnessing the poetic justice unfold, were both relieved and disturbed by the fate of Max and Moritz. The tale of their dark deeds and ultimate demise became a cautionary story, a chilling reminder that malevolence, if left unchecked, can lead to a fate as grim and unsettling as the misdeeds themselves. And so, the legend of Max and Moritz persisted, etched into the annals of village lore as a dark comedy of mischief, retribution, and the haunting consequences of malevolent deeds. The Weeping Buddha, a tale of haunting tears. In a forgotten corner of the Far East, in the serene surroundings of an ancient monastery, a tale of darkness and sorrow echoed through the corridors of time. It was a legend that had been passed down for generations, a story of a mysterious statue known as the Weeping Buddha, and the heart-wrenching secret it held. High in the mountains, where the monastery stood like a beacon of tranquility, there lived a young orphan named May. She was a quiet and inquisitive child, known for her gentle spirit and her love for the temple's serene surroundings. May had always felt a deep connection to the Weeping Buddha, a centuries-old statue that stood in the heart of the monastery. The Weeping Buddha was a marvel of artistry, carved from the purest alabaster. Its eyes bore an expression of infinite sadness, and crystalline tears seemed to flow eternally down its chiseled cheeks. It was a sight to behold, but it also carried with it a profound enigma. May's connection with the Weeping Buddha ran deeper than anyone could have imagined. She would often sit before the statue, feeling a strange kinship with the sorrowful visage. It was as if the Weeping Buddha's silent tears held a secret that only she could understand. One night, as the moon bathed the temple in an ethereal glow, May felt a strange, irresistible urge to approach the statue. The room seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly aura, and the air was heavy with silence. As she reached out to touch the tears glistening on the Weeping Buddha's cheeks, an incomprehensible energy surged through her. She was transported to a place beyond time and space, a realm of ancient sorrows and lost souls. In this ethereal realm, May witnessed the heart-wrenching story of a young mother who had entrusted her beloved child to the monastery, only to face a lifetime of unbearable grief and separation. The tears of the weeping Buddha were the crystallized tears of that heartbroken mother, trapped within the alabaster form for eternity. May returned to the mortal realm with the heavy burden of this knowledge. The weeping Buddha's tears were not merely a work of art, they held the essence of a mother's inconsolable sorrow. May, now the guardian of the weeping Buddha's secret, felt a profound sense of responsibility to honor the memory of the grieving mother. Over the years, the temple's visitors would often glimpse May sitting before the weeping Buddha, her own eyes mirroring the statue's infinite sadness. She became the guardian of a sacred, heart-rending legacy, ensuring that the weeping Buddha's tears were never forgotten. The legend of the weeping Buddha persisted, a tale of sorrow and eternal vigilance, a silent testimony to the boundless love of a mother, and the haunting presence of a statue that had come to life in the heart of an ancient monastery. The White Lady, haunting the halls of history. In the depths of Europe, where centuries-old castles and majestic manors concealed secrets and shadows, there existed the legend of the White Lady. Her ghostly presence was known to drift through the passages and halls of ancient abodes, a figure veiled in mystery, shrouded in her own tragic tale. Among the many stories of white ladies, one haunting tale was rooted in the annals of a remote, forgotten castle nestled in the heart of the Czech Republic. This particular white lady was said to be the spirit of a noblewoman who had met a gruesome end in the castle's labyrinthine catacombs. The legend spoke of a time when the castle was a place of splendor and intrigue, and the lady was its jewel, a woman of breathtaking beauty, with ivory skin and raven-black hair. She was deeply in love with a nobleman, a dashing lord who promised her a future filled with love and happiness. But as with many tales of old, their love was not to be. The lord was lured away by another, leaving the lady in a state of deep despair and grief. Her heartbreak, however, was more than her delicate soul could bear. One fateful night, the lady descended into the shadowy depths of the castle's catacombs, a place shrouded in darkness and secrecy. It was there that she met her untimely end, her life extinguished in the most gruesome manner. It was said that her spirit, imprisoned in her white funeral gown, continued to wander the castle's chambers and hallways, her mournful presence striking terror into those who crossed her path. Her weeping, echoing through the stone corridors, was a chilling reminder of the love she had lost and the life she would never live. As the years passed, the castle fell into disrepair and decay, its history and legends fading like distant echoes. Yet, the White Lady's presence endured, a spectral guardian of a bygone era, a witness to a love that had soured and a life that had been cruelly cut short. Visitors to the castle spoke of eerie encounters, of glimpses of the White Lady's ghostly figure, her mournful, haunting presence lingering in the shadows. Her legend lived on, passed down through generations, a chilling reminder of love's darker facets and the enduring power of a ghostly presence that refused to be forgotten. The White Lady of the castle, with her flowing white gown and sorrowful visage, continued to be a figure of enigma, haunting the halls of history, a timeless reminder of love, betrayal, and a lingering spirit that refused to be laid to rest. The Wild Huntsman, a haunting pursuit through eternity. Deep within the heart of the ancient Black Forest in Germany, a chilling legend told of the Wild Huntsman, a spectral figure who haunted the shadowy depths of the woodland. The story was whispered among the villagers, passed down through the generations, and it spoke of a sinister hunt that transcended time and eternity. In a secluded village, nestled at the forest's edge, a young boy named Heinrich was known for his adventurous spirit and fearlessness. He often ventured deep into the forest, discovering hidden trails and secret glades where few dared to tread. One fateful day, Heinrich found himself wandering deeper into the black forest than ever before. As the thick canopy of trees closed in around him, the air grew heavy with an eerie silence. It was then that he heard the distant, ghostly sound of horns and the thundering of galloping hooves. Heinrich's heart raced as he realized he was not alone. A spectral procession emerged from the shadows, led by the wild huntsman. He was a figure of darkness, with a wild, untamed beard, clad in tattered garments, and crowned with a horned helm. His eyes burned with an otherworldly fire, and his hunting dogs, skeletal and snarling, bayed in the night. The wild huntsman's ghostly retinue included lost souls, condemned to an eternal hunt through the forest. Their faces bore expressions of anguish, forever trapped in the pursuit of a quarry they could never catch. As Heinrich watched in horrified fascination, the wild huntsman's spectral gaze fixed upon him, and he knew that he had become a part of the never-ending hunt. The wild huntsman raised his horned helm, revealing hollow eyes that peered into Heinrich's very soul. Terrified and desperate, Heinrich fled deeper into the forest, the spectral hunt hot on his heels. The cold wind howled in his ears, and the shadows reached out to claim him. As he ran, he could hear the bone-chilling cries of the doomed souls, their fingers just inches away from capturing him. The nightmarish pursuit seemed to stretch on for an eternity, Heinrich's heart pounding in his chest, his breath ragged and desperate. But then, as suddenly as it had begun, the hunt ceased, and Heinrich found himself alone at the edge of the forest. The wild huntsman and his ghostly retinue had vanished, returning to the depths of the black forest, but the memory of that harrowing encounter would haunt Heinrich for the rest of his days. The legend of the wild huntsman endured, a chilling reminder of the eternal torment that awaited those who dared to enter the haunted heart of the Black Forest. For as long as the legend lived, so did the sinister pursuit of the spectral huntsman and the eternal terror of the hunted. The girl who trod on the loaf. Once, there existed a girl named Inga whose life took a tragic turn due to an unusual incident. Despite her impoverished background, Inga possessed a prideful and cruel nature from an early age. In her childhood, she derived pleasure from tormenting insects, progressing to more sinister acts as she grew older. Inga's mother, recognizing her headstrong will, foresaw trouble, lamenting that one day her daughter might trample on her heart. This apprehension became a harsh reality when Inga was taken into the home of wealthy people who treated her as their own, amplifying her arrogance. After about a year, Inga's patroness suggested a visit to her parents. However, Inga's intentions were far from familial warmth. She sought to display her newfound affluence. At the entrance of her native village, she turned back in shame, repulsed by her mother's modest lifestyle. Another half-year passed, and Inga's mistress urged her to visit her parents again, presenting her with a large wheaten loaf. Inga, adorned in her best clothes and new shoes, set out carefully, seeking cleanliness. Yet, on the Moor's footpath, faced with mud and water, she sacrificed the loaf to avoid soiling her shoes. This act led to her disappearance into a muddy pool. Inga sank into the marsh woman's realm, a place of unbearable torment. Her body stiffened, her foot still bound to the loaf. An evil spirit then transported her to a worse place, witnessing the agony of countless souls awaiting mercy. As a statue with her foot fastened to the loaf, Inga could see the misery around her but could not turn her head. Flies without wings added to her torment, and hunger tormented her, yet her rigid posture prevented her from breaking off a piece of the loaf. One day, a little innocent child, moved by Inga's tale, wept and prayed for her return. These compassionate words reached Inga's heart, marking the first time someone had said, "Poor Inga," without emphasizing her faults. Years passed on Earth, and Inga's name became less frequent. However, a sigh and the words of a dying mother reached her. As time elapsed, Inga heard her name pronounced once more, and two bright stars above represented the closing eyes of an old woman on Earth. The old woman, once a child who had lamented for Inga, wept and prayed for her in heaven. These tears and prayers echoed through the void, securing unexpected mercy. Inga's stony form transformed into a little bird, discovering the beauty of the world. Christmas brought an opportunity to share kindness, and Inga, now voiceless, distributed crumbs to other birds. Throughout the harsh winter, the little bird selflessly shared crumbs, echoing the weight of the loaf that marked her fall. As the last crumb was shared, Inga's wings turned radiant white, and she soared into the sky, leaving behind the torment that defined her existence. The bird's first good deed on Earth was witnessed in song, emerging from a hole in an old ruined wall. The winter's hardships further revealed the bird's compassion, collecting and distributing crumbs to other birds. As the last crumb was shared, the bird's gray wings turned white, symbolizing its redemption. Children, witnessing the white bird, compared it to a seagull diving into the sea, its destination unknown. Some speculated it flew straight to the sun. The Babadook, a shadowy tale of darkness unleashed. In the quiet suburbs of a small Australian town, the eerie and mysterious legend of the Babadook began. It was a legend whispered among the townsfolk and passed down from generation to generation, a story that sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. It was the story of a sinister presence that dwelled within the pages of a children's book. Amelia was a widowed mother, struggling to raise her young son, Samuel. She was haunted by the memory of her husband's tragic death and the relentless grief that seemed to follow her everywhere. Her grief had taken root in the darkest corners of her soul, casting a long, oppressive shadow over her life. One day, while rummaging in the attic, Amelia stumbled upon a dusty, old book with a foreboding title, Mr. Babadook. The book, with its eerie illustrations and cryptic verses, sent a chill down her spine. It told the story of a dark, otherworldly presence, the Babadook, who would torment those who dared to invite it into their lives. Unbeknownst to Amelia, the book had already captured the imagination of her young son, Samuel. As she read the haunting verses aloud, the ominous figure of the Babadook began to materialize in their lives, casting a long and menacing shadow over their home. Soon, Samuel's behavior took a disturbing turn. He claimed to see the Babadook lurking in the corners of their house, a sinister, top-hatted figure with long, bony fingers. As the weeks passed, Amelia too began to witness eerie occurrences, shadows that danced with malevolence, and the sense of an unseen presence that lingered in the darkness. Amelia's life spiraled into a nightmarish descent, as the Babadook's influence grew stronger. She became isolated, her sanity slowly eroded by the relentless and malevolent spirit that sought to possess her soul. Her world turned into a sinister nightmare, and she struggled to protect herself and her son from the unrelenting darkness. As the Babadook's haunting grip tightened, Amelia and Samuel were pushed to the brink of despair. Their home became a nightmarish prison, a realm where the boundaries between reality and the supernatural blurred. The Babadook's influence became inescapable, a malevolent force that tormented their every waking moment. In a final, desperate confrontation, Amelia faced the Babadook, a manifestation of her own repressed grief, with the strength and determination of a mother protecting her child. She forced the sinister spirit back into the shadows from whence it came, sealing it within the confines of the book that had unleashed it. Amelia and Samuel survived the harrowing ordeal, but the memory of the Babadook lingered, an enduring testament to the power of darkness and the strength of a mother's love. The eerie legend of the Babadook lived on, a chilling reminder of the horrors that could emerge when one's innermost demons are unleashed. The Green Ribbon, a tale of enigma and eerie secrets. Once upon a time in a quaint village, there lived a young girl named Jenny. She was known far and wide for her striking beauty, with long flowing hair and eyes as bright as emeralds. Yet, what fascinated everyone even more was the green ribbon she always wore around her neck, tied in a neat bow. Jenny grew up and fell in love with a young man named Alfred. They married, and Jenny kept her green ribbon, never removing it, not even on their wedding night. Alfred was a bit curious but decided not to press the matter, respecting his wife's privacy. Years passed, and Jenny and Alfred lived a happy life. They had children, and Jenny was a loving, devoted mother. Yet, that green ribbon remained a constant enigma, the unspoken question that hung in the air. One day, as they both grew old, and Jenny lay on her deathbed, she turned to Alfred with a faint smile. She knew her time was near and decided it was time to reveal the mystery of the green ribbon. "Alfred," she began, her voice fragile, "I want you to know the secret of the green ribbon. When the time is right, I will show you." Alfred, his heart heavy with anticipation, nodded solemnly, his eyes filled with a mix of love and curiosity. But it wasn't until Jenny's last breath was drawn, as her life gently slipped away, that she whispered, "Now, Alfred." With trembling hands, he untied the green ribbon. To his astonishment, Jenny's head fell gently from her neck, severed neatly and cleanly. The room filled with a ghostly silence, and Alfred's mind reeled in shock and disbelief. The room was enveloped in an eerie stillness, save for the soft rustling of the green ribbon as it slipped from his trembling hands to the ground. He gazed at his beloved wife's head, which remained miraculously preserved. What dark sorcery had kept her head attached to her body, hidden beneath that green ribbon all those years? Alfred would never know, for Jenny was gone, and the secret was buried with her. Alfred spent the rest of his life in solitude, haunted by the enigma of the green ribbon and the unsettling mystery it concealed. He would often sit alone, pondering the inexplicable secret that was Jenny's life and death, shrouded in the eerie, unforgettable presence of the green ribbon. Tick-Tick, the Aswang Chronicles. In the remote islands of the Philippines, beneath the lush canopies of ancient forests, whispered tales of the supernatural have taken root. Among these stories, none is more sinister than the legend of the Tick-Tick. It is a tale of dark creatures lurking in the shadows, and children who must face their terrifying presence. Deep within the heart of the Filipino archipelago, nestled between dense foliage and secluded villages, there existed a belief in creatures known as the aswang. These malevolent beings, feared by all who heard their name, were shapeshifters that could take on various forms to stalk their prey. Of all the aswang, the tik-tik was the most dreaded. It was said to be a winged creature, part human and part bird, with large, bloodshot eyes that could see in the darkest of nights. Its elongated tongue, dripping with saliva, was its most grotesque feature, used to suck the fetuses from the wombs of pregnant women. Children of the village were told to beware the tik-tik's distinctive call, a haunting tik-tik sound it made as it approached, searching for innocent victims. The darkness of the forest and the eerie silence of the night only heightened the sense of dread when that ominous sound filled the air. In a remote and forgotten village, a young boy named Juan lived with his family, unaware of the lurking terrors of the tik-tik. He was a courageous child, with a heart full of curiosity and an unyielding spirit. One moonless night, as the village lay shrouded in darkness, one heard the dreaded tik-tik sound from the forest. The chilling call seemed to draw nearer, and his heart raced with fear. For a moment, he hesitated, but his determination and love for his family overcame his fear. Arming himself with a cross and a bottle of holy water, one ventured into the shadows, seeking to confront the tik-tik and protect his village. As he drew closer to the source of the ominous sound, his heart pounded, and sweat clung to his brow. In the depth of the forest, he encountered the tik-tik, its grotesque figure illuminated by the pale moonlight. The creature's bloodshot eyes locked onto Juan, and the air grew heavy with menace. In a moment of sheer terror, Juan held out his cross and splashed the tik-tik with holy water. A piercing scream erupted from the creature as it writhed in pain and retreated into the night. Juan's courage and resourcefulness had saved his village from the tik-tik's malevolent intent. From that night on, Juan was celebrated as a hero, and the villagers told his story to their children, teaching them the importance of bravery in the face of darkness. The legend of tik-tik, a chilling creature that lurked in the Philippine night, lives on as a reminder of the courage of one young boy, who stood up to a malevolent force that preyed on the innocent and protected his village from the terrors of the supernatural world. The Dreadful Story of Pauline and the Matches by Heinrich Hoffmann in the translation of Mark Twain. Mama and Nurse went out one day, and left Pauline alone at play. Around the room she gaily sprung, clapped her hands, and danced, and sung. Now, on the table close at hand, a box of matches chanced to stand, and kind Mama and Nurse had told her that if she touched them they would scold her. But Pauline said, "Oh, what a pity! For, when they burn, it is so pretty, they crackle so, and spit, and flame, and Mama often burns the same. I'll just light a match or two as I have often seen my mother do." When Mins and Mons, the pussycats, heard this they held up their paws and began to hiss. "Meow," they said, "meow, meow. You'll burn to death. If you do so, your parents have forbidden you, you know." But Pauline would not take advice. She lit a match, it was so nice. It crackled so, it burned so clear, exactly like the picture here. She jumped for joy and ran about, and was too pleased to put it out. When Mins and Mons, the little cats, saw this, they said, "Oh, naughty, naughty miss," and stretched their claws, and raised their paws. "'Tis very, very wrong, you know, meow, 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 meow. You will be burned if you do so, our mother has forbidden you, you know. Now see. Oh! See, what a dreadful thing, the fire has caught her apron string, her apron burns, her arms, her hair, she burns all over, everywhere. Then how the pussycats did knew what else, poor pussies, could they do? They screamed for help, 'twas all in vain, so then, they said, we'll scream again. Make haste, make haste. Meow. Meow. She'll burn to death, we told her so. So she was burned with all her clothes, and arms, and hands, and eyes and nose, till she had nothing more to lose except her little scarlet shoes, and nothing else but these was found among her ashes on the ground. And when Hen the good cat sat beside the smoking ashes, how they cried! Meow meow! Meow meow! What will Mama and Mercy do? Their tears ran down their cheeks so fast. They made a little pond at last. J.C. Jatir, the Whispering Forest Spirit. Deep within the lush and mysterious forests of South America, where ancient trees stand like towering sentinels and the air is thick with the secrets of nature, there exists a chilling tale of a supernatural entity known as J.C. Jatir. It is said that this enigmatic spirit haunts the dense foliage, preying on those who dare to venture too far into the heart of the wilderness. J.C. Jatir, often described as a small, childlike figure with radiant golden hair and sparkling blue eyes, is more than meets the eye. Its appearance may deceive, for within the spirit resides an insatiable darkness that hungers for the souls of the unwary. The legend begins with a young boy named Marcos, who lived on the outskirts of a vast, ancient forest. Marcos, known for his adventurous spirit, would often wander into the woods, captivated by the allure of the towering trees and the whispers of the wind that seemed to carry secrets from another realm. One day, as Marcos explored deeper than ever before, he stumbled upon a hidden grove bathed in an eerie, ethereal light. In the center stood J.C. Jatir, appearing innocent and childlike, with an otherworldly glow that drew Marcos closer. The spirit beckoned to him, its melodious voice resembling the wind rustling through leaves. Intrigued and enchanted, Marcos approached, unaware of the darkness lurking beneath the surface. J.C. Jatir offered him a small, exquisite flower, promising that it held the power to reveal hidden truths about the world. Entranced by the spirit's charm, Marcos accepted the flower, unknowingly sealing his fate. From that day on, Marcos changed. The once vibrant boy became a mere shell of his former self, his eyes reflecting a profound emptiness. He would roam the forest, luring other curious souls with the radiant flower, all the while whispering haunting secrets that seemed to echo through the trees. The legend of J.C. Jatir spread through the villages surrounding the forest, striking fear into the hearts of those who heard it. The wise elders warned against straying too far into the woods, cautioning that the spirit could trap the unwary in an eternal dance of shadows. To this day, when the wind whispers through the ancient trees and the sunlight filters through the dense foliage, locals speak in hushed tones of J.C. Jatir, the forest spirit with a beguiling facade and a malevolent hunger for the souls of those who succumb to its enchantment. The ancient woods remain a realm of mystery and danger, where the line between beauty and darkness is as thin as a wisp of forest mist. The Pied Piper of Hamelin. In the town of Hamelin, Germany, in the year 1284, the citizens faced a rat infestation. Rats were everywhere, causing disease and chaos. The desperate townspeople tried various methods to get rid of the rats, but nothing worked. One day, a mysterious man dressed in colorful attire arrived in Hamelin. He was a piper, known for his magical ability to play music that could charm both humans and animals. The piper approached the town officials and offered to rid Hamelin of the rats in exchange for a fee. Agreeing to the terms, the piper began playing his magical pipe, and to the amazement of the townspeople, all the rats followed him as he led them out of the town and into the Weser River, where they drowned. Despite fulfilling his part of the bargain, the town officials refused to pay the piper the agreed-upon fee. Angered and seeking revenge, the piper vowed to teach the town a lesson. On the 26th of July, while the residents were attending church, the piper played his enchanting tune again. This time, however, it wasn't rats that followed him but the children of Hamelin. The children, unable to resist the magical melody, followed the piper out of the town and into a cave in the nearby mountains. Only 2 children remained, one who was blind and another who was lame and couldn't keep up with the rest. They were the only witnesses to the strange event. The town was left in grief and regret for not honoring their agreement with the piper. The cave in the mountains, known as the Piper's Cave, became a permanent reminder of the mysterious disappearance of the children. The Pied Piper, according to the legend, took the children to a beautiful land, saving them from the Black Death that struck Hamelin in 1284. Despite the potentially positive outcome, the story is often retold as a cautionary tale about the consequences of breaking promises. The Turn of the Screw, by Henry James. The story begins with a group of people gathered at a house on Christmas Eve, sharing ghost stories. One of the guests, Douglas, promises to share a particularly eerie tale that was told to him by his sister's governess. He believes the story to be true, and the group settles in for a haunting narrative. The governess's tale unfolds as she recounts her experiences at Bly, a remote country estate. She was hired by a wealthy bachelor to care for his orphaned niece, Flora, and nephew, Miles. Bly is a sprawling mansion surrounded by vast grounds, creating an isolated and eerie atmosphere. The governess arrives at Bly full of anticipation but is immediately struck by the beauty and charm of the children. Flora, the younger one, is enchanting, and Miles, the older boy, is poised and precocious. However, the governess soon becomes aware of the peculiar circumstances surrounding her employment. Shortly after her arrival, the governess receives a letter from the children's guardian, instructing her not to bother him with any issues and to handle everything herself. This mysterious directive adds to the growing sense of unease. As the days pass, the governess starts to notice strange figures around the estate. She catches glimpses of a man and a woman, whom she later identifies as Peter Quint, the former valet, and Miss Jessel, the previous governess. Both figures, now deceased, seem to be wandering the grounds and attempting to make contact with the children. The governess becomes obsessed with protecting the children from these malevolent spirits. She questions Mrs. Groves, the housekeeper, about the history of Bly and the former employees. Mrs. Groves reveals that Quint had a dark influence on Miles, and Miss Jessel had a similarly troubling relationship with Flora. The governess's paranoia intensifies as she sees the apparitions more frequently. She is convinced that the ghosts are attempting to possess the children's souls. The children, however, deny seeing anything, leading the governess to believe they are lying or concealing the truth. One evening, while walking with Flora, the governess sees the ghost of Miss Jessel by the lake. Flora appears to acknowledge the ghost's presence but claims innocence when questioned. The governess becomes increasingly agitated, feeling a growing sense of malevolence surrounding the children. The climax occurs when the governess sees Quint on the staircase one night. She confronts the apparition, and their intense stare-down ends with Quint disappearing. The governess then discovers that Miles has died in her arms, seemingly frightened to death. The story ends with a chilling revelation. The master arrives at Bly, and the governess expects him to condemn her actions. Instead, he dismisses her and refuses to discuss the matter further. The governess is left haunted and tormented by the events at Bly, unsure of whether the supernatural occurrences were real or products of her own unraveling sanity. The Turn of the Screw remains a classic in the realm of psychological horror, leaving readers to ponder the true nature of the ghosts and the sanity of the governess. The ambiguity and unanswered questions contribute to the enduring mystery and horror of James's tale. The Girl Without Hands. A miller fell slowly but surely into poverty, until finally he had nothing more than his mill and a large apple tree which stood behind it. One day he had gone into the forest to gather wood, where he was approached by an old man, whom he had never seen before, and who said, "Why do you torment yourself with chopping wood? I will make you rich if you will promise me that which is standing behind your mill." "What can that be but my apple tree?" thought the miller, said yes, and signed it over to the strange man. The latter, however, laughed mockingly and said, "I will come in 3 years and get what belongs to me," then went away. When he arrived home, his wife came up to him and said, "Miller, tell me, where did all the wealth come from that is suddenly in our house? All at once all the chests and boxes are full, and no one brought it here, and I don't know where it came from." He answered, "It comes from a strange man whom I met in the woods, and who promised me great treasures if I would but sign over to him that which stands behind the mill. We can give up the large apple tree for all this." "Oh, husband," said the woman, terrified. "That was the devil. He didn't mean the apple tree, but our daughter, who was just then standing behind the mill sweeping the yard." The miller's daughter was a beautiful and pious girl, and she lived the 3 years worshiping God and without sin. When the time was up and the day came when the evil one was to get her, she washed herself clean and drew a circle around herself with chalk. The devil appeared very early in the morning, but he could not approach her. He spoke angrily to the miller, "Keep water away from her, so she cannot wash herself any more. Otherwise I have no power over her." The miller was frightened and did what he was told. The next morning the devil returned, but she had wept into her hands, and they were entirely clean. Thus he still could not approach her, and he spoke angrily to the miller, "Chop off her hands. Otherwise I cannot get to her." The miller was horrified and answered, "How could I chop off my own child's hands?" Then the evil one threatened him, saying, "If you do not do it, then you will be mine, and I will take you yourself." This frightened the father, and he promised to obey him. Then he went to the girl and said, "My child, if I do not chop off both of your hands, then the devil will take me away, and in my fear I have promised him to do this. Help me in my need, and forgive me of the evil that I am going to do to you." She answered, "Dear father, do with me what you will. I am your child." And with that she stretched forth both hands and let her father chop them off. The devil came a third time, but she had wept so long and so much onto the stumps, that they were entirely clean. Then he had to give up, for he had lost all claim to her. The miller spoke to her, "I have gained great wealth through you. I shall take care of you in splendor as long as you live." But she answered, "I cannot remain here. I will go away. Compassionate people will give me as much as I need." Then she had her mutilated arms tied to her back, and at sunrise she set forth, walking the entire day until it was night. She came to a royal garden, and by the light of the moon she saw that inside there were trees full of beautiful fruit. But she could not get inside, for there it was surrounded by water. Having walked the entire day without eating a bite, she was suffering from hunger, and she thought, "Oh, if only I were inside the garden so I could eat of those fruits. Otherwise I shall perish." Then she kneeled down and, crying out to God the Lord, she prayed. Suddenly an angel appeared. He closed a head gate, so that the moat dried up, and she could walk through. She entered the garden, and the angel went with her. She saw a fruit tree with beautiful pears, but they had all been counted. She stepped up to the tree and ate from it with her mouth, enough to satisfy her hunger, but no more. The gardener saw it happen, but because the angel was standing by her he was afraid and thought that the girl was a spirit. He said nothing and did not dare to call out nor to speak to the spirit. After she had eaten the pear she was full, and she went and lay down in the brush. The king who owned this garden came the next morning. He counted the fruit and saw that one of the pears was missing. He asked the gardener what had happened to it. It was not lying under the tree, but had somehow disappeared. The gardener answered, "Last night a spirit came here. It had no hands and ate one of the pears with its mouth." The king said, "How did the spirit get across the water? And where did it go after it had eaten the pear?" The gardener answered, "Someone dressed in snow white came from heaven and closed the head gate so the spirit could walk through the moat. Because it must have been an angel I was afraid, and I asked no questions, and I did not call out. After the spirit had eaten the pear it went away again." The king said, "If what you said is true, I will keep watch with you tonight." After it was dark the king entered the garden, bringing a priest with him who was to talk to the spirit. All three sat down under the tree and kept watch. At midnight the girl came creeping out of the brush, stepped up to the tree, and again ate off a pear with her mouth. An angel dressed in white was standing next to her. The priest walked up to them and said, "Have you come from God, or from the world? Are you a spirit or a human?" She answered, "I am not a spirit, but a poor human who has been abandoned by everyone except God." The king said, "Even if you have been abandoned by the whole world, I will not abandon you." He took her home with him to his royal castle, and because she was so beautiful and pure he loved her with all his heart, had silver hands made for her, and took her as his wife. After a year the king had to go out into the battlefield, and he left the young queen in the care of his mother, saying, "If she has a child, support her and take good care of her, and immediately send me the news in a letter." She gave birth to a beautiful son. The old mother quickly wrote this in a letter, giving the joyful news to the king. Now on the way the messenger stopped at a brook to rest. Tired from his long journey, he fell asleep. Then the devil came to him. He still wanted to harm the pious queen, and he took the letter, putting in its place one that stated that the queen had brought a changeling into the world. When the king read this letter, he was frightened and saddened, but nevertheless he wrote an answer that they should take good care of the queen until his return. The messenger returned with this letter, but he rested at the same place, and again fell asleep. The devil came again and placed a different letter in his bag. This letter said that they should kill the queen with her child. The old mother was terribly frightened when she received this letter. She could not believe it, and wrote to the king again, but she got back the same answer, because each time the devil substituted a false letter. And the last letter even stated that they should keep the queen's tongue and eyes as proof. The old mother lamented that such innocent blood was to be shed, and in the night she had a doe killed, cut out its tongue and eyes, and had them put aside. Then she said to the queen, "I cannot have you killed as the king has ordered, but you can no longer stay here. Go out into the wide world with your child, and never come back." The old mother tied the queen's child onto her back, and the poor woman went away with weeping eyes. She came to a great, wild forest where she got onto her knees and prayed to God. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to her and led her to a small house. On it was a small sign with the words, "Here anyone can live free." A snow-white virgin came from the house and said, "Welcome, Queen," then led her inside. She untied the small boy from her back, held him to her breast so he could drink, and then laid him in a beautiful made-up bed. Then the poor woman said, "How did you know that I am a queen?" The white virgin answered, "I am an angel, sent by God to take care of you and your child." She stayed in this house for 7 years, and was well taken care of. And through the grace of God and her own piety, her chopped-off hands grew back. The king finally came back home from the battlefield, and the first thing he wanted to do was to see his wife and their child. Then the old mother began to weep, saying, "You wicked man, why did you write to me that I was to put 2 innocent souls to death?" And she showed him the 2 letters that the evil one had counterfeited. Then she continued to speak, "I did what you ordered," and showed him as proof the eyes and the tongue. Then the king began to weep even more bitterly for his poor wife and his little son, until the old woman had mercy and said to him, "Be satisfied that she is still alive. I secretly had a doe killed and took the proofs from it. I tied your wife's child onto her back and told her to go out into the wide world, and she had to promise never to come back here, because you were so angry with her." Then the king said, "I will go as far as the sky is blue, and will neither eat nor drink until I have found my dear wife and my child again, provided that in the meantime they have not died or perished from hunger." Then the king traveled about for nearly 7 years, searching in all the stone cliffs and caves, but he did not find her, and he thought that she had perished. He neither ate nor drank during the entire time, but God kept him alive. Finally he came to a great forest, where he found a little house with a sign containing the words, "Here anyone can live free." The white virgin came out, took him by the hand, led him inside, and said, "Welcome, King," then asked him where he had come from. He answered, "I have been traveling about for nearly 7 years looking for my wife and her child, but I cannot find them." The angel offered him something to eat and drink, but he did not take it, wanting only to rest a little. He lay down to sleep, covering his face with a cloth. Then the angel went into the room where the queen was sitting with her son, whom she normally called, filled with grief. The angel said to her, "Go into the next room with your child. Your husband has come." She went to where he was lying, and the cloth fell from his face. Then she said, filled with grief, "Pick up the cloth for your father and put it over his face again." The child picked it up and put it over his face again. The king heard this in his sleep and let the cloth fall again. Then the little boy grew impatient and said, "Mother, dear, how can I cover my father's face? I have no father in this world. I have learned to pray, 'Our Father which art in heaven,' and you have said that my Father is in heaven, and that he is our dear God. How can I know such a wild man? He is not my father." Hearing this, the king arose and asked who she was. She said, "I am your wife, and this is your son," filled with grief. He saw her living hands and said, "My wife had silver hands." She answered, "Our merciful God has caused my natural hands to grow back." The angel went into the other room, brought back the silver hands, and showed them to him. Now he saw for sure that it was his dear wife and his dear child, and he kissed them, and rejoiced, and said, "A heavy stone has fallen from my heart." Then the angel of God gave them all something to eat, and then they went back home to his old mother. There was great joy everywhere, and the king and the queen conducted their wedding ceremony once again, and they lived happily until their blessed end. The Slit-Mouthed Woman. Once upon a time, in a small village in Japan, there lived a beautiful woman named Kukusekana. She was known for her striking beauty, but her life took a tragic turn when her husband accused her of infidelity. Consumed by jealousy and rage, he attacked her, slashing her mouth from ear to ear. After the disfigurement, Kukusekana became a vengeful spirit, wandering the streets after dark, her face concealed by a surgical mask. Legend had it that if you encountered her, she would approach you with a seemingly innocent question, "Am I pretty?" If you answered no, she would reveal her disfigured mouth, and with a pair of scissors she carried, she would cut your face to resemble hers. If you answered yes, she would then ask, "How about now?" before revealing her mutilated face and attacking you. There was seemingly no way to escape her deadly intentions. The villagers lived in fear of the slit-mouthed woman, and parents warned their children to be cautious when walking alone at night. The streets would empty as darkness fell, and tales of the vengeful spirit spread far and wide. One night, a brave schoolboy named Taro was walking home from his friend's house when he heard a soft voice behind him. "Am I pretty?" Startled, he turned around to see a woman with a mask covering her face. Taro hesitated, unsure of how to respond. The woman persisted, "Am I pretty?" Taking a deep breath, Taro answered cautiously, "Yes." The woman seemed pleased with his response and started to walk away. Taro, feeling a mix of relief and curiosity, couldn't help himself and asked, "What happened to your mouth?" Without warning, the woman ripped off her mask, revealing a grotesque, gaping wound from ear to ear. Taro gasped, frozen with fear. The woman, now enraged, pulled out a pair of scissors and advanced toward him. In a panic, Taro managed to evade her, sprinting through the darkened streets as the vengeful spirit pursued him. He reached his home, slamming the door shut and locking it behind him. From that night on, Taro lived with the haunting memory of the slit-mouthed woman, a cautionary tale for anyone who dared to wander the streets after sunset.